Okay, here we go. Everything's going to be okay for some of us. Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt during a campaign rally Saturday night in Butler, Pennsylvania. He's now being compared to Teddy Roosevelt by Elon Musk. Elon Musk endorsed Trump right after the assassination attempt and compared him to Teddy Roosevelt because Teddy Roosevelt also survived an assassination attempt while he was campaigning for president. What I like best about this new comparison between Trump and Teddy Roosevelt is, yes, Teddy Roosevelt did, in fact, survive an assassination attempt while campaigning to become president again. And then Teddy, like Donald Trump in November, ended up losing that election. Also, Teddy Roosevelt was a genocidal maniac, but that's for a different show. Teddy Roosevelt also invented the phrase, the bully pulpit, when he described the office of president. And by bully, he meant he could use the office to push his agenda. Roosevelt used the word bully to describe something as superb or excellent. If something was really great, it would be bully. Trump, on the other hand, uses the bully pulpit to make fun of people with disabilities. I am so grateful that he's okay. That was a tragedy, and I am glad he's okay. I really am. I disagree with everything he stands for, but as President Biden said, we win at the ballot box, not with bullets. We win at the ballot box. He said battle bots, but we knew what he meant. So, how was it possible for this shooter to get within firing range of the former president? Kimberly A. Cheadle, the director of the Secret Service, has been ordered to testify before the House Oversight Committee on July 22nd. That would be 1 week from today, after the convention. We need to get to the bottom of this, but not before we hold our big convention in Milwaukee. One of the dangers about taking on the Secret Service is if, God forbid, Donald Trump becomes president, he might get rid of the Secret Service and create his own palace guard, the same way George W. Bush, after 9/11, invented Homeland Security. And his palace guard would have supreme power over all of us. With his palace guard replacing the Secret Service, he could easily invoke any of the 250 emergency powers at his disposal. So I'm glad he's okay. I really am. I'm glad he's okay. I'm worried about what the Republicans are going to try to do to the Secret Service. House Republican from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, went after the female head of the Secret Service on Sunday, calling her a diversity hire. Burchett called Cheadle a DEI appointee who was unqualified for the job. Burchett said members of the House Oversight Committee should forget about this week's convention and hold hearings right away. Right-wing political activist Dinesh D'Souza, who was pardoned by Trump after pleading guilty to campaign finance law violations. Dinesh D'Souza complained after the shooting that there are too many female Secret Service agents. And because they're women, he said, they have no idea how to protect Donald Trump. He went on to complain that DEI is to blame for what happened on Saturday. He said DEI is demanding that 30% of all Secret Service agents must be female. So they are using this as an opportunity to let their misogyny flag fly. The Wall Street Journal this morning and Bob Costa over at CBS News are reporting that Democrats who have been calling for Joe Biden to step aside are now backing away in favor of party unity. So far, 20 Democratic members of the House and Senate have urged Biden to release his delegates in favor of an open convention next month in Chicago. But CBS and the Wall Street Journal are now reporting this morning that since the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, more Democrats who were doubting Biden's chances are now hinting that the country and the party is ill-equipped to handle this much chaos. A lot of Republicans Saturday night said Donald Trump just won the presidency. It was very unseemly to talk that way, to describe him as this ubermensch who can survive a bullet when 20 kids in Uvalde couldn't. It was unseemly. I'm glad he's okay, but it was ugly. And I don't think you win elections being the party that's in the pocket of the NRA and holding a rally that turns out that way. I'm glad the president survived. I'm sorry for the firefighter who died. I don't know why people are saying Donald Trump is going to win because of this. I don't think people are going to say, well, he survived an assassination attempt, so let's rip up the Constitution. I'm going to vote for him instead. I just don't see that happening. President Biden delivered a nationally televised 6-minute address from the Oval Office where he said it's time to dial back the temperature. He said it's okay to disagree. It's okay to argue. And he said, I'm going to make my best case that this is the most important election of our lifetime. But he said there's only one way to settle this argument, and that's at the ballot box. He stumbled on the word ballot box. He stumbled a few words, which I have no doubt the media will seize upon, while the American voter couldn't care less. The American voter is seeing the stark differences between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. What happened in Pennsylvania was unseemly. I don't see how that's a winning message for the Republicans. That's what I'm hearing, though. Republicans are saying the election's over. I think voters are glad that Donald Trump is okay, but it's unseemly. There are plenty of rumors right now. Some are saying it was staged. Some are saying it was the deep, dark state. Look, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories in the past 30 hours. But so far, to me, the only thing that makes any sense about what happened Saturday is it was an elaborate gender reveal party that went horribly wrong. That's what I'm going with. Okay, at this time, let's go very quickly. This is what we actually know. I want to go over what we know. The shooting took place on live television. A bullet is said to have grazed the former president's right ear. He dropped to the ground as more shots rang out. Secret Service agents smothered Trump and escorted him to an SUV, but not before the bleeding candidate stopped to pose for what is now an iconic photo of Donald Trump pumping a fist as the American flag waves above him. I'm glad he survived, but this is not Iwo Jima. It just isn't. There's something unseemly about this. I'm so happy he survived, and I wish this didn't happen. His teeth gritted, blood dripping down his cheeks. He told followers to fight, fight, fight. And then he asked, Where are my shoes? Trump was rushed to a nearby hospital, and he then, roughly 3 hours after the shooting, flew back to New Jersey, where he stayed overnight at his Bedminster Golf Club. It was great to see him walking on the tarmac at Newark Airport. It was great. He said the shooting will have no effect on his plans to attend this week's Republican convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where he will accept the nomination Thursday night. Trump arrived in Milwaukee late Sunday afternoon. The shooting happened 10 minutes into Trump's speech on Saturday. A 50-year-old man in the audience, only 10 feet away from Trump, was shot in the head and was later pronounced dead. Very sad. Very sad. I don't know why Republicans are celebrating and saying Donald Trump, because he survived this, is going to get reelected. I'm glad he survived. The 50-year-old firefighter did not. It's unseemly. I don't know if voters are going to respond positively to this. I think we're all grateful Donald Trump is okay. On Sunday, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro identified the victim as Corey Comparatore. I hope I pronounced that right. Corey Comparatore, a 50-year-old retired fire chief and Trump supporter who died, said the governor, protecting his family. The governor called him a hero. 2 others were critically injured. All 4 victims were adult males. The assassin is also said to be an adult male, white and 20, fitting the description of most spree killers. White, male, 20. The FBI said Secret Service counter-snipers were able to take out the alleged shooter just seconds after the assassination attempt. 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of nearby Bethel, Pennsylvania, has been identified as the assassin. I see no need to show you a picture of him. Pentagon spokesman Major General Patrick Ryder, according to the Washington Post, said the alleged shooter had 0 affiliation with the United States military, but he was identified late Sunday night as a member of a local gun club. The FBI is reporting that the AR-15, I'm just drinking a little coffee here, the AR-15, let me have another sip of coffee. The AR-15 used in the shooting, that AR-15 was purchased either by Crook's father or a member of his immediate family. We also have reports that explosives were found inside Crook's car. The FBI said it is now looking into the possibility that this was an act of domestic terrorism, but so far there are no reports of accomplices. There are reports that the 20-year-old was a registered Republican but had donated $15 to a progressive Democrat Get Out the Vote project back in 2021. Crooks is said to have positioned himself on an office building rooftop belonging to American Glass Research, where he fired his AR-15. Secret Service agents immediately fired back, killing him instantly. The Washington Post reports this morning that American Glass Research worked with police beforehand to secure the building as well as the building's parking lot to keep people off the roof. President Biden said on Sunday, before his nationally televised speech, that the FBI still has no motive for the shooting. Former Fox News anchor and former NBC Today host turned Sirius radio host Megyn Kelly said quote, now that Trump survived an assassination attempt, I will crawl over broken glass to vote for him. I don't know, Megyn, crawling over broken glass? You could end up with blood coming out of your wherever. You're going to vote for somebody because they survived an assassination attempt. House Republican Mike Collins of Georgia, immediately after the shooting, said Joe Biden gave the orders and should be prosecuted. He called on the local prosecutor in Butler, Pennsylvania, to arrest the president and charge him with inciting an assassination. You know, I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court just ruled that's probably legal for a president to do that. Joe Biden didn't do that, but our Supreme Court, I think, said he could. Immediately after the shooting, Elon Musk took to Twitter to announce, quote, I fully endorse Donald Trump for president. Then, right after Musk, hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, multi-billionaire, also used the assassination attempt as an opportunity to endorse Trump. He was ripping off Elon Musk, Bill Ackman. Apparently, the highly litigious Bill Ackman is a plagiarist, just like, according to Business Insider, his new wife, Bill Ackman's new wife, according to Business Insider, stole some passages for her dissertation at MIT, plagiarist, according to Business Insider. But Bill Ackman is suing Business Insider. That's great for freedom of the press. Billionaires suing Business Insider. You're looking at former liberal Dave Rubin turned conservative. He hosts the Koch brothers financed Rubin Report. He's seen here with Candace Owens, who last week questioned the severity of the Holocaust, insisting Dr. Joseph Mengele's experiments on twins couldn't have possibly happened because it didn't make any sense. She said, quote, those experiments on twins would have been a tremendous waste of time and supplies, unquote. That's Candace Owen and her friend Dave Rubin. Well, immediately after the assassination attempt, Dave Rubin said he was hearing reports that the gunman in Butler, Pennsylvania was Antifa. He then added that Antifa should finally be listed as a terrorist organization, and Elon Musk, the head of Twitter, said, I agree. Well, the gunman was not Antifa. He was a registered Republican. Also, Antifa is an ideology. It's not an organization. Like Dave Rubin's frontal lobe, Antifa doesn't exist. Unless you're talking about my father. My father was Antifa. Marjorie Taylor Greene, after the shooting, tried to turn down the temperature, telling supporters, quote, we are in a battle between good and evil. The Democrats are the party of pedophiles, murdering the innocent unborn, violence and bloody, meaningless, endless wars. See, she's beginning to realize that words have consequences and that we're all Americans. Marjorie went on to say, quote, Democrats want to lock up their political opponents and terrorize innocent Americans who would tell the truth about it. Might be time to adjust the roids. She continued to say, quote, the Democrat Party is flat out evil, and yesterday they tried to murder President Trump, unquote. So I guess it doesn't matter that the FBI says the shooter was a registered Republican, because I'm sure Marjorie believes the FBI is in on it. Imagine dedicating your life to this kind of garbage. This is why we have to be protective of the Secret Service. They're trying to get rid of the FBI, and Trump isn't going to win. I am so grateful he's okay. But if he somehow finds his way back into the Oval Office, he's going to dismantle the Secret Service and replace it with his own palace guard. And they can, as we know about the Secret Service, they can investigate, they have free rein to investigate anybody when it comes to protecting the president, as well they should. They should have that. Donald Trump, I suspect, would dismantle the Secret Service and create his own palace guard. Yeah. But that's Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was spouting QAnon theories right up until she became a member of Congress. And she's posing there with an assault weapon. That's how she got elected. Imagine being this far gone as Marjorie Taylor Greene and at the same time having this much influence in the Republican Party. Is she going to speak this week at the convention? Is Melania going to speak? Lauren Boebert, immediately after Sunday's shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania, blamed it all on Joe Biden's angry political rhetoric. She blamed speech, not guns. Can't be the fault of the guns. These two women, Boebert and Greene, are among the strongest supporters of gun rights in the House of Representatives. They have strolled through the halls of the Capitol wearing their sidearms. They have refused to go through metal detectors when Nancy Pelosi installed them. Meanwhile, as they wear their sidearms and celebrate guns, all they really do is grumble about the cancel culture and how the First Amendment is under siege by the radical left who won't let people talk. And yet, whenever there's a shooting, they insist it's because of what has been said, not the guns. After a shooting, we have to curb our speech, they say. Why do we have to curb our speech? Because people have guns, so we have to watch what we say. Their misreading of the Second Amendment will always eclipse our First Amendment, no matter how much they claim to support freedom of speech. The Second Amendment trumps the First Amendment. By the way, the First Amendment's Establishment Clause also calls for no official religion, but both Greene and Boebert insist openly that America is a Christian nation. They should read the First Amendment and the Second Amendment as well, and so should the Supreme Court. Freshman Ohio Republican Senator J.D. Vance, after the shooting, blamed it all on Joe Biden's political rhetoric. You're blaming political rhetoric. The mere act of blaming Joe Biden's heated political rhetoric is heated political rhetoric. So J.D. Vance is blaming the shooting on President Biden's heated political rhetoric. So which heated political rhetoric would that be, J.D. Vance? Would it be Joe Biden's full-throated endorsement of an assault weapons ban that would have gotten that AR-15 out of the hands of the kid who shot Trump? Would it be that angry political rhetoric? By the way, at the next debate, you know what's going to be considered a rude question? The assault weapons ban. The way the media infantilizes us, since we have to tone down the rhetoric, it would be considered rude to discuss AR-15s and mass shootings at a time like this. The New York Times reports that Chris LaCivita, Trump's co-campaign manager, he shares the position with the daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. Chris LaCivita, Trump's co-campaign manager, sent an email to all Republican staffers warning them that in light of what happened on Saturday, he will not tolerate any employees who resort to dangerous, inflammatory rhetoric on social media because Trump doesn't like the competition. The New York Times reports that the Biden White House has also warned all White House employees to refrain from posting anything incendiary on their personal social media accounts. But the White House didn't specify if it was about Trump or Biden. The White House didn't clarify whether White House staffers weren't supposed to trash Biden or Trump, because I think they are spending more time now trashing Biden than they are Trump. Fox News host and world-class Fred Flintstone impersonator Bret Baier said late Sunday that he spoke with Donald Trump. Trump, he said, expressed gratitude for Joe Biden's call to him on Saturday night. The president called Donald Trump to wish him well. The New York Times reports that evangelicals staged an outdoor prayer meeting for Trump right outside where the RNC convention starts today in Milwaukee. Jared Longzine, a pastor at Wildwood Baptist Church in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, asked the group to also pray for Joe Biden. It's nice. Like I said, let's all pray for baby killer Joe Biden, but it's close. No, he didn't say that. It's a joke. The FBI said on Sunday that an investigation into the alleged shooter shows no mental health issues. It's important to remember that mass shootings are not a mental health issue, despite what the National Rifle Association wants you to believe. Gun manufacturers always blame mental illness, not the guns. A recent study cited by the National Alliance on Mental Illness shows mental illness is only responsible for 4% of all violence in America. Yet, despite that, a vast majority of Americans believe that the mentally ill are violent, and that mass shootings, like the one we saw Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania, targeting Donald Trump, mass shootings like that are caused by untreated mental illness. Well, the FBI specifically said they don't think the alleged shooter was suffering from any mental illness. There were no signs of mental illness. Daniel Webster, director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Policy and Research, recently wrote in the Washington Post that mental illness is only a major factor when it comes to gun suicides. People committing suicide are mentally ill. People engaging in mass shootings are not mentally ill. He writes that psychologists and psychiatrists are incapable of predicting who is most likely to pick up a weapon and start shooting, because legitimate mental illness like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or depression rarely, if ever, lead to a mass shooting, maybe suicide. These red flag laws are garbage. Webster says most mass shootings, more often than not, are caused not by mental illness, but by anger, alcohol, lack of impulse control, and most likely a traumatic life event such as a divorce or the loss of a job. That's not mental illness. Anger, drinking too much, lack of impulse control, a traumatic life event like breaking up with somebody or the loss of a job, losing your home, that is not a mental illness. The mentally ill are not violent. And yet, politicians still push red flag laws designed to identify the person most likely to snap. But it's not the mentally ill who are going to snap. The people most likely to snap, the way we saw, unfortunately, Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania, the people most likely to snap are usually 20-year-old white men with testosterone coursing through their veins. That's not mental illness. It's isolation, alcohol, anger issues, hormones, horniness, and some kind of traumatic life event, like being a 20-year-old. Just being 20 is traumatic enough. If you were to worry about everyone in America who feels isolated, angry, or is going through a divorce, or lost a job, and is drinking too much, well, all of us would be red flagged. Have you driven in New Jersey lately? This entire country is ready to snap. I did some driving in New Jersey. The country, everybody is about to snap, which is why guns are a bad idea, and so is driving in New Jersey. It's not mental illness. We need to learn what mental illness is. People keep talking about it. We can't stigmatize mental illness, right? Of course, we don't have Medicare for all to treat it. All these celebrities, don't be ashamed of your mental illness, but they're allowing politicians to blame the mass shootings on people who are mentally ill. They're not doing the mass shootings. Again, I am glad Donald Trump is going to be okay. I really am. I disagree with everything he stands for, but including not renewing the assault weapons ban. So violence to me is abhorrent. So I am glad Donald Trump is okay. But let's not call him a hero for surviving an attempt on his life. The Secret Service was heroic. With all due respect, Donald Trump did nothing. He dropped to the ground and then got whisked away into an awaiting vehicle. He did nothing. He did nothing to stop this from happening because no presidential candidate has accepted more money from the National Rifle Association than Donald Trump. Nobody. He is the National Rifle Association's candidate. He got something like $30 million from the NRA in 2016. A lot of that, some believe, was straw donations from Vladimir Putin, but nobody has accepted more money from the NRA than Donald Trump, including Ted Cruz. Nobody. He did nothing, Donald Trump, after he was shot, and he did nothing to stop the proliferation of weapons in America when he was president. Now, yes, to his credit, after the 2017 shooting in Las Vegas, he did issue an executive order banning the sale of bump stocks that turn AR-15s into machine guns. But he also appointed 3 ultra-right-wing pro-gun justices to the Supreme Court who, last month, overturned that executive order. Bump stocks are once again legal. Donald Trump did nothing before he was shot or after he was shot. He did nothing as president, and he will do nothing if he's president again to stop the cancerous spread of assault weapons that almost got him killed Saturday night. that did get a 50-year-old fire chief killed Saturday night. You have no idea how grateful I am that President Trump survived. And not just because half the merch at my store is directed at him. I mean, I would have had to take all that stuff down just when I'm getting started. But that's not why I'm glad. I'm grateful he survived. This could have been so much worse. It was for the firefighter who died. But it could have been so much worse. I know that because this is America. Every day, after each mass shooting, we had one big one today, or yesterday. After every mass shooting, we are told, quote, that's not who we are. Because getting told that's not who we are after our daily mass shooting is who we are. That's who we are. After every mass shooting, every day, we're told that's not who we are. That's who we are. The ones who are told that's not who we are. Back to Trump. I'm glad he survived. He's not a hero because he survived an assassination attempt, and I find it really unseemly that so many Republican members of the House are saying he just won the election. You can't be a hero because you survive an assassination attempt while at the same time oppose an assault weapons ban. You can't survive a bullet from an AR-15 and at the same time oppose banning the sale of AR-15s. Would you call a lung cancer survivor a hero because he refused to kick his 3-pack-a-day habit? That doesn't make you a hero. That makes you self-destructive, not too bright. I've heard people say that Trump is going to be beloved now that he's been shot and lived, the same way Reagan got a huge bump in the polls after he survived a bullet. But here's the difference. After getting shot, Reagan came out against assault weapons. And one of his final acts before disappearing from the public arena, one of his final acts in 1994 was to help then President Bill Clinton take on the National Rifle Association to get an assault weapons ban bill passed, and it passed. Thanks, in no small measure, to the Gipper. Unfortunately, it expired 10 years later, and George W. Bush wouldn't renew it. I've heard some people say, now that Trump has been shot, he's going to come out in favor of an assault weapons ban. One would think, right? That is the thinking, though, of crypto accelerationists, where you mistakenly believe that once someone sees how bad an idea has turned out to be, they change their mind. But people don't change. There were accelerationists in Germany in 1932 who said, you know what, let them see how bad Hitler is, and then they'll come back to reality. I remember hearing that when Reagan was first elected. Let everybody see how bad supply-side economics is, and then they'll start voting for Democrats again. Didn't happen. Things in motion stay in motion. Supply-side economics has now been tried 3 times under Reagan, George W. Bush, and Trump. And all 3 times, it increased the debt and either caused a recession or slowed the economy. Supply-side economics, tax cuts for the richest 1%. You let them keep their money, they create jobs, and everything trickles down. Tried it 3 times. Nothing trickled down. It increased the national debt. Trump added $8 trillion to our national debt because of supply-side economics. And it slowed the economy down. You look at the charts pre-COVID, his GDP rate is like 1% lower than Joe Biden's over the time span before COVID. But that doesn't change the minds of the people. We know supply-side economics slows the economy down and increases the debt, but that doesn't change the minds of the people who keep pushing supply-side economics, because supply-side economics isn't about creating jobs, growing the economy, or balancing the budget. Supply-side economics is all about making it so rich people don't have to pay taxes. That's all it is. The same way guns aren't about keeping you safe. They will tell you guns are about keeping you safe, but they don't keep you safe. You're more likely to be killed by your own gun. They say guns keep you safe, but they know that's not true. It's about selling you guns. The most underreported story of the year, and I covered this, nobody was interested. Beginning of the year, the most underreported story of the year was the NRA trial in January, where the head of the NRA, Wayne LaPierre, was forced to step down right before he and the rest of the charlatans running the National Rifle Association were found liable for stealing millions of dollars from the NRA. They were spending millions on luxury vacations, clothing, and jet travel. Wayne LaPierre, we learned, can't even fire a gun, which is why he had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on private security for protection. He said guns keep you safe, but a gun wasn't good enough for Wayne LaPierre. He needed hundreds of thousands of dollars of private security. He was there to sell guns. The NRA is a lobbyist for gun manufacturers. Republican House Speaker, not Speaker, he almost became Speaker, he's the House leader, he's the majority leader, Steve Scalise of Louisiana, survived a mass shooting in 2017. At the time, I thought, okay, now maybe he'll come out in favor of an assault weapons ban. But he's become an even stronger supporter of the NRA after the shooting. After the shooting, the NRA and the other gun lobbyists showered him with twice as much money. And don't forget Elise Stefanik, who's right under Scalise in the Republican House leadership. She's been named as a possible number 2 pick for Donald Trump. And she is married to Matthew Manda, who is manager of public affairs for the National Shooting Sports Foundation, a trade association for firearms manufacturers. It is a trade association for firearms manufacturers. Now, he'll talk about gun rights when he goes up on the Hill, but this is about firearms manufacturers finding new markets for the AR-15. But Trump, after Saturday, is now supposed to be a hero. Why? Because he took one for the team, just like Steve Scalise took one for the team, and they won't back down. Unlike Ronald Reagan, who after he was shot, Trump will never call for an assault weapons ban, even though he was shot by an assault weapon. And that's what makes him, so they say, a fighter. Unseemly. Sick. And yet it's impolite to ask, to bring up renewing the assault weapons ban. You can't ask that question at the next debate. Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who, like Stefanik, wants to be named Trump's number 2, and possibly today. The convention in Milwaukee starts today. By the time you hear this, Trump might have already announced his Veep. And the smartest move is Rubio. Politically speaking, Rubio would sweep up the establishment Republicans and the independents who are on the fence. That would be the smartest move politically. But, and I fear that he's going to pick Marco Rubio or Nikki Haley. But Nikki Haley is problematic for Trump. Rubio, if he picks Rubio, it's going to be harder to win in November. Democrats are going to win, but Rubio could make it much harder. But Don Jr. actually said something interesting during his podcast the other night. And yes, sometimes I listen to Don Jr. Don Jr. said, this is really interesting. He said his daddy is going to have to pick a running mate who's just as MAGA as daddy is, if not more. That the vice president he chooses has to be more MAGA. And Rubio is not MAGA. And neither is Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's he's not going to pick her. Rubio is a respected member of the Republican establishment. And Don Jr. said the minute daddy gets into the Oval Office, Democrats and a good number of Republicans will try to throw him out. But Don Jr. said that if daddy has what is perceived as a moderate vice president like Rubio, that will make it that much easier for establishment Republicans to get on board removing daddy. They would feel very secure replacing Trump if they knew Rubio was going to step in. Don Jr. said, but if daddy picks a vice president who is, let's say, just as horrible as daddy is, Republicans are going to see no point in removing him. I think they called it impeachment insurance when George W. Bush picked Dan Quayle, or when John McCain picked Sarah Palin. It was impeachment insurance. It was to placate. It was to make sure that there wouldn't be a revolt within the party to replace the president. You really want to get rid of me, Sarah Palin, Dan Quayle? So that's the thinking. Picking Haley or Rubio today would be smart politically, and it would work, especially Rubio. But Trump knows the two of them would be way more attractive, and even without saying or doing anything, they would be instrumental in his removal if he became president. Again, if Trump picks Rubio, it may be today, we're going to have to work that much harder. I think it's going to be somebody like Keith Kellogg, like some retired general, some retired madman who said, he said, I've been under a lot of fire, in the military, and it reveals character. And I saw Donald Trump's character Saturday night. You mean dropping to your knees and waiting for the Secret Service to escort you out? Well, fight. He clenched his fists and said, fight, fight, fight. I don't know who they're supposed to fight. And where are my shoes? I need my shoes. Marco Rubio, vying for number 2, took to social media after the shooting to say, God saved Donald Trump's life. So what? God, I mean, what are you saying? God is a good guy with a gun, or God spares the people? He only spares the people who don't deserve to be shot? Is that what you're saying about your God, Marco Rubio? On Saturday, Trump was surrounded by Secret Service and local police officers. They were all carrying high-capacity firearms. And yet he still came within an inch, literally, of his life. Because the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is luck. Trump is alive today not because of guns. He's alive today because of luck. Luck saved Trump's life on Saturday. The 50-year-old retired fireman sheltering his daughters wasn't so lucky. The good guys with a gun couldn't protect him, and they really didn't protect Trump. Although the Secret Service, let me just turn that down there. The Secret Service counter sniper appears to have taken out the shooter almost instantaneously. I mean, I from what I saw, by the time Trump was clutching his ear, the counter sniper identified the source of the shots and took him out. So yes, it could have been so much worse had the counter sniper not acted with the speed they did. That is true. So look, I can't stress this enough. I am so glad and grateful that Trump is okay. This could have been, so I'm glad he's okay. But 1.5 million Americans have been shot to death since the 1968 assassinations of Bobby Kennedy and Dr. King. It's 1.5 million Americans shot to death since 1968. 1.2 million soldiers have been killed in all the U.S. wars combined. If you add up all the soldiers who died in all U.S. wars, it comes to 1.2 million. Since 1968, 1.5 million Americans have been killed at home by guns. It's more, just since 1968, more than all the U.S. soldiers who have been killed in all the U.S. wars going back to 1776 combined. Now, I could be glib and say our biggest enemy is us, but that's not true. It's the gun manufacturers trying to expand the marketplace. In October of last year, there was a mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine. And House Democrat, he might be the most conservative Democrat in the House, Jared Golden. He's an ex-Marine. He's been on this show. Jared Golden apologized after the shooting and said, I was wrong for not supporting an assault weapons ban. He went on to say, because it was in his neighborhood, it affected him personally. Now, he's an ex-Marine. He served, I believe, in Iraq. But there was a mass shooting in his district. And he said, the time has come for me to take responsibility for this failure, which is why I now call on the United States Congress to ban assault rifles like the one used by the sick perpetrator of this mass killing, unquote. Well, sick as in mentally ill, bad choice of words there. But Democratic Congressman Jared Golden, after Trump's shooting, didn't focus on the assault weapons ban. Instead, he did what everybody's doing on CNN. He blamed both sides of the political aisle for incendiary speech. He said both parties, Republican and Democrat, are misleading voters by describing this election as a battle between democracy and authoritarianism. It's not. This election isn't a battle between democracy and authoritarianism. He said both sides must stop saying that this is a fight against fascists or a fight against socialists who want to destroy our country. He called these categorizations of the other side as dangerous lies. This is what guns do. They infantilize the conversation because this election is about fascism, socialism, authoritarianism, and what kind of country, what kind of government we want to have. I disagree with Congressman Jared Golden. We should be allowed to say all those things without fear or violence, and we should be allowed to exaggerate. We should be allowed to call each other names, and that's part of the process. You can call me a socialist, call me a communist, I don't care. And I should be allowed to call the other side fascists. Nazis. That's politics. By the very definition of the ideology, I have watched what the GOP has become, and rationally, dependent upon as much historical data as possible, I can say that this current iteration of the GOP, fascists. Do I think they want to destroy the country? No. They just want to destroy it for some of us. They make no bones about America being a white ethno-nationalist Christian nation. And we saw it on January 6th. The appeal to heaven flags, the Confederate flags. And we're seeing it now, the way this party dismisses an insurrection as just a protest that got a little out of hand. Now, I believe that. And I should be allowed to believe that. And I should be allowed to say that without being accused of dialing up the temperature, having my political rhetoric be too extreme. I welcome Republicans accusing me of wanting to destroy this country through my radical Marxist agenda. They should be able to say, I want to redistribute wealth by rewriting the tax code and eliminating billionaires, which I do. And you could be angry at me for wanting to get rid of billionaires and taxing corporations. And Republicans should be allowed to call me a crazy, radical communist. And you should be allowed to say that my policies, my belief system will destroy America. You can even accuse me of hating America, which they do all the time. I welcome that. That's part, it's childish, it's stupid, but it's okay. But we are now being told to dial it back. Why? Because of the guns. We can't enjoy our First Amendment rights and speak our truths because of the guns. There are now calls from the media for harmony. But the American people are not the Beach Boys. We don't do harmony. And harmony is not a good thing. In a democratic republic, we're supposed to argue and fight. That's how you arrive at truths at the ballot box. As Joe Biden said last night, these arguments have to be in good faith. What he didn't say is these arguments also have to be without the specter of assault weapons. We are a nation of contrarians. As Groucho said, whatever it is, I'm against it. I think it was horse feathers. Whatever it is, I'm against it. Whatever it is, I'm against it. That's who we are, and that's a good thing as long as there are no assault weapons. Whatever it is, I'm against it until you could convince me to be for it. That is what keeps America from falling prey to fascism and authoritarianism. Whatever it is, we're against it. Whatever it is, you can't win. We're against it. You know, if Joe Biden, I was thinking, if he offered to meet with Donald Trump to tamp down the rhetoric, everyone would be against it. He's politicizing the shoot. It's wrong. They should shake hands. No, I don't want him shaking hands. If I was thinking, it would be a nice gesture for Joe Biden to fly to Bedminster, shake his hand, and then I thought that would never happen. People would be against that. It's political. Why is he shaking Donald Trump's hand? Why is Donald Trump shaking Joe Biden? Whatever it is, we're against it. As Joe said, as our president said last night, make your best argument and then win at the ballot box. That's our country. But we have to watch what we say. We can't make our best argument, not because of the cancel culture, because of the guns. Disharmony is baked into our system. It's part of our checks and balances. We won't become an authoritarian state because Americans don't like being told what to do. Even the fascists who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, they don't like being told what to do. Their high school report cards and dental x-rays reflect that. Disharmony is okay. But now we're being told that Americans are too divided. I'm not sure America lacks unity so much as it lacks an assault weapons ban. Democracy is messy. Fiery political rhetoric isn't the problem. AR-15s are. Get rid of the guns. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. You've been listening to the Mop-Up for July 15th, 2024. I've been David Feldman in New York City. Thank you for finding me. If you enjoyed any of this, please share it with like-minded friends. Leave a comment. I read all your comments. I have to filter out some. I'm going to ask you to leave comments that are appropriate given the subject, please. I've seen some things on the I can't believe what some people wrote. It was shocking what people wrote. So you please write appropriate comments. Then you know what I mean by that. I'm glad Donald Trump is okay, and that was a tragedy. And if I see any comments that say otherwise, I'm going to ban you from the comments section. You won't be able to leave any comments. So I don't want to see any comments that are inappropriate. If you would, I hate to be but it's important to me because I have to go through the comments section, and I like to think my listeners are smarter than what I see on Facebook and Twitter and other places. I can't believe what people I know wrote. If you would like a transcript of today's episode, go to shopdavidfeldman.com, and they're free. We also have a free Harvard diploma over there. Pick it up, and it's misspelled. Can you see? There we go. This is the Harvard coffee mug. Harvard is misspelled. So, and you can get a Harvard. The Harvard diploma is free. The coffee mug isn't. And you can get the Still a Democrat t-shirt. I like this. Still a Democrat. And of course, my Made in Los Estados Unidos coffee mug. That's what I'm most proud of. And my big seller. This is just so debilitating. I work so hard on this show and research. And my merch, my biggest selling merch is this. The chef's apron with the words, "Hope you're in the mood for diarrhea." I hate everybody. I hate you for buying that. All right. Thank you to Bob in the chat room for keeping the conversation civil. And that's it. It's going to be okay. Biden's going to win. It's going to be okay. 2020. Remember how difficult 2020 is? These are difficult times. I don't like cowards. I don't like people who don't have faith. Get up. As Joe Biden said, get back up and fight for the Democratic Party. If you're worried about the future and you have anxiety, get out and knock on doors. Staying at home, having panic attacks, doesn't help anybody. Go to the Democratic Party near you and say, I'm here to help. And help. All right? Sorry, I don't mean to be a prick, but I am. All right, bye. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me, because I don't know what I would do if I couldn't do this. I have no idea. I was watching the news last night, and I thought, oh, my God. So thank you for listening to me. Bye.